Hello. In this video, we will provide you with an overview of one of the most time-saving features in SavePoint, and that's its ability to import financial data directly from your CSV files or Excel files, saving you hours of manual data entry. We'll also show you a brief overview on how to make manual entries as well. So in this video, we're going to cover the 4 major types of imports that you can do. First, we'll cover how to import accounts, which is great for setting up a bunch of accounts all at once. Next, we'll show you how to import your budget data, which is perfect if you're coming from another spreadsheet or application. Third, we'll walk you through how to import transactions. This is a big one that you'll use quite regularly to pull in data from your bank or credit cards. And finally, we'll cover how to import your balance sheet history, which is ultimately how you can import your past net worth and your daily balances. And to conclude, we will show you where you can export and import your SavePoint database as well. And again, for each, we will show you how to make manual entries as well if you don't feel like using the import feature. So each of these has its own helpful wizard to guide you, and by the end of this tutorial, you should hopefully have no problem at all getting your financial data into the right place within SavePoint. So with that, let's get started. First up, let's talk about importing your accounts. You'd want to use this if you're just starting out and you have a ton of accounts to add, or maybe you're migrating from another app and you already have a list of accounts in a spreadsheet somewhere. It may also be easier to quickly import a whole spreadsheet instead of adding accounts one by one. Doing it this way, you can just import the whole list in just a few clicks. I'll say that also universally for all of the import function we will talk about today, you'll have the ability to access the import button on the top right of the screen, right here, for example. The first page, once you click in, the first page will always provide you with instructions, provide you with an example template file that you could use right down here, and also a quick and drag feature that you can just drag the file right in. SavePoint generally accommodates CSV and XLSX files for Excel. Our CSV file that we're going to review today has been prepared for all of the imports we'll be working with today, so we'll be able to proceed to work through each import, skipping that step. So now let's focus on uploading our accounts file. For us, the only required column here in this upload is the account name, but you can add additional columns to your upload as well, such as account type, financial institution, etc. And again, the template that we're going to use has example data in it. All you have to do is replace that example data with your actual accounts. And a couple of quick tips here when completing your file. For any liability-like accounts, such as a credit card or a loan, make sure to enter the balance as a negative number, or at the very least, be consistent and be mindful. During the upload, you will have the ability to identify negative numbers or liability accounts. For dates, most formats do work. We recommend using the month, day, and year format, but again, make sure you're consistent with whatever you have in the file. And when you're done, you can save your file as a CSV or keep it as an Excel file. So with that, let's get back to importing. So for us, you can just click on choose your file here, or you can drag it in. So we're in account, so we're going to select our account. We've added it here. And we'll drag it right into the upload zone, and we're going to click next. So in the next step, we now map the SavePoint fields, so those in the spreadsheet that we uploaded. The only required field is the account name, and SavePoint will attempt to match these up automatically based on the name, which you can see here. We really didn't need to do much. The fields pretty much match up already. So for us, this looks good, so we're going to click on next. So here we are in step 3. This phase is very important, so we're going to set account types and classes. And this, again, is an important step. For each account that you're importing, you'll need to confirm its account type. So is it a checking account, a savings account, or an investment account? And its asset class. For example, is it a liquid asset, a retirement account, or a short-term liability? Also at this stage, we assign the currency to each account. So for us, by default, it's US dollar. And for us, it's based on the currency that's set within SavePoint by default. So we can always use this button to quickly apply US dollar to all of our accounts, or you can change it to euro and change them all to euro. For us, we're going to keep it US dollar. Let's quickly go down. We have a few accounts that we'll need to update, and we'll give them a quick review. We'll just want to make sure that everything looks good. So we're just going to change a few just for you here. So we have a cash account, and the asset class is going to be liquid assets. We have other cash, also a liquid asset. Send a Friend Mobile, which is a cash account and liquid asset. And we're going to scroll down. We have Life River Retirement Fund. So this is going to be, let's see, we have retirement. Sorry, this is a mutual fund, and we're going to put it in our retirement assets. And these are all also funds. So mutual funds here. And we'll put these as retirement assets. So we're going to work on going through these and take a quick break, and you'll see us in a flash at the next step. Okay, and now with that, all of our accounts have been added, and we've indicated the account type and asset class. So we're going to click on Next. Right before we import, we're able to see a final review, and we can quickly see that everything looks good. So we're going to click Import. And just like that, once you click Done, we're back in the Accounts page. All of the newly imported accounts are here. Our total new accounts are up to 55 because we have quite a few accounts in our screen. If you'd like to add accounts manually, you can still do so by clicking the Add Account at the top right of the page here, and you can complete the form provided. To learn more about how to add accounts specifically, you can watch the Adding Accounts video. Okay, next up, let's work on importing our budget. So we're going to go to the budget page here. So importing your budget may be a useful strategy if coming from another program, or if you're importing multiple budgets at once. Keep in mind that when importing budgets, you can only have one budget of the same year at a time in SavePoint. So let's get started and click on Import Budget. To start, remember to download the budget template. The link is right here, and you can fill out the fields in the SavePoint format. So let's upload our budget template, so you can see that it's now here. You could also drag and drop. Once everything is uploaded, the next step, and we'll click on Next, is to set the spending goals for each year. So we have multiple years in our spreadsheet, as you can see that we scroll down. By default, we see the 50-30-20 goal in each year that we have in our budget. For now, we're going to just leave these as is, but you can change these on a year-by-year basis if it makes sense for you. In the next step, you will tell SavePoint if the numbers in your budget file are based on monthly budget numbers, like $1,200 for rent, or annual numbers, like $14,400 for rent. We have our budget set up as monthly, so we're just going to leave it as is and click Next. The next step we see here is for category mapping. Just like with account import, we need to map the category names from your file, like dining out, to category names in SavePoint, like restaurants. SavePoint attempts to automap categories, as you can see, and if you already have an existing category saved, which you likely will because of the initial budget you set up earlier, and we'll automap this and then manually adjust the rest. So we'll click this button to automap, and you'll see that this category right here will or should change, at least some of them did. Those that are not an exact match, there are some suggestions. And we'll click the salary one here, and we'll just scroll through to see if there's any that haven't been automatically assigned. This one is other. Toiletries. Dividend payments. And that's it. Okay, so our mapping is now complete. So we'll move on to the next section. So this page is an intermediary step, which allows us to include default categories within SavePoint to each year of the budget that does not have those years in the budget file. This is useful if you'd like to have consistent categories across all budget years. It's not required. But if you see a default category here that you would like to add in each budget year, you would check it off here. Even if that budget is $0, at least you would have it consistently in each budget year. So for now, we're going to just leave these as is. We don't need to have them appear in each year. But if we wanted to, we can select individually each one, and we can set a consistent budget number for each one. Or we can just leave them blank, or we can select all, leaving, if we don't fill anything in, the budget will be 0, or we can make a change for each individual budget item that we want to include. So for now, we're just going to clear all. Keeping these clear, again, will just import only the categories that are in the budget file that you uploaded. So next up, we have a quick check for duplicates. SavePoint will check to see if you already have a budget for that year in your budget file and within the SavePoint program itself. If there is a conflict, the program will warn you that those years that you attempt to import will be skipped to prevent data conflicts and to ensure accuracy. So you won't need to worry about SavePoint overwriting your existing data, but this will serve as a good safety check for you. So as we mentioned earlier, SavePoint will only allow one budget per calendar year. And again, this is to avoid data integrity issues. The import does not overwrite budget years. As you can see in the screen right here, we have the only years that will be imported in this import will be 2013 through 2024. I can tell you that we also have 2025 in our file, but because 2025 is the current budget that we just created, it will not be imported because it would conflict with the existing data. So the program will ultimately skip over the duplicate year. So if you prefer to use the budget year that's saved in your spreadsheet, what you can do is complete this import first, and then you can delete the budget year that's within SavePoint settings after importing and then re-import. And this is actually a nice coincidental timing. This is one of our security features here. There's a session timeout because we have not touched the screen in some time. We're going to extend the session right here. And okay, so with that, we're going to click on next. And we are presented with a quick final review that allows us to view a summary of all of the budget years that we're about to import. So we have, first we see the budgets that we're about to create and the allocations that we have for our spending goals, our needs, wants, and savings. And then down below, we have our budget details, our income plan, and our budget lines that are going to be imported. And so we can skip through 2014, 2015, so we can go through each individual year and see what data is included in each year. And so if everything looks good, after you complete your review, you can click on Import. And once the budget import completes, just like that, all of the budget years have been entered. And you can see that again here by going to this drop down, and you can see all of the different budgets available to you. So if you do need to make any changes, you can manually make edits on the budget page. Or if you need to delete an entire budget, you can do so in settings. To learn more about the budget, please review the Creating Budget video for more information. Okay, so next up, let's navigate to the Transactions page. You'll likely use this page the most often. The Transactions page is where you're able to enter every purchase, payment, and income transaction and expense transaction that you receive. You can think of this as your journal where you'll record every time money comes into your accounts or goes out of your accounts. The entries here are used in conjunction with your budgets, reports, and to track your financial progress. A quick note before we get started, transactions are used to track net cash flow. So think money in and money out. Your wealth, on the other hand, is calculated separately in the balance sheet module, which looks at account balances over time. These are separate systems in SavePoint. Transactions show movement, balance sheets show total value. We will talk about balance sheets next. So okay, let's move on to importing. This is essentially the feature that will save you a lot of time and save you from having to manually type in every single coffee you buy, every restaurant you visit, every trip to the grocery store. To keep things simple, you're able to just download your monthly statement from your bank or credit card and import it all at once. So let's click on import transactions here, and you can see the import page like the previous import modules we've already reviewed today. And again, we have a download CSV template, but again, like I was saying, you have the ability to download a monthly statement from your bank or your credit card, and you can import that directly. So while we do have this CSV that you can use, the system is robust, and you can use the bank's own CSV, and most banks will have the ability to export transactions into a spreadsheet, which you can use here. We recommend importing CSVs separately as opposed to combining multiple bank CSVs into one, as you generally will want to identify what account the upload is from, and also different banks report expenses differently from others, so having consistent data is crucial. So like last time, we're going to upload our file here and click Next, and the key columns that you can see are date, description, and the amount, and the rest we can complete later on. So let's import the transactions, and then we move on to column mapping. Just like before, we're going to map our columns from the spreadsheet to the fields that SavePoint expects. If you have these mapped already, SavePoint should be able to predict which columns match up, but please make sure you give it a quick review. This is also the page where we can determine which account to attribute this import to. So for us, we're going to scroll down and identify a credit card account. So we do have SavePoint cards or SavePoint credit card as an example. And then we look up, and we're just making sure that the SavePoint fields do align properly with the file columns within the spreadsheet as well. And just to note, imports here currently do not affect your balance sheet, so you don't need to worry about any conflicts if you import to the wrong account. The account that you select is more so just for reporting. So next, step 3, we're going to specify the amount direction. So this is another very important step as we work our way through. As we mentioned earlier, banks format files differently. So look at the examples on the screen here. Does your bank show expenses as negative numbers, like minus $50, or does it show both income and expenses as positive numbers? So on this screen, you'll want to select the option that matches your file, so SavePoint knows how to classify expenses versus income appropriately. For us, we're going to keep it set up as is with negative amounts being minus 50. After choosing your direction, you'll have the option to map your currency on a merchant level basis. And so we'll move on for that. And here's the currency mapping page. So again, you can map on a merchant level basis right here. If you're using your base currency like US dollars, you can just select all to base currency using this button up top and then click Next. If not, for advanced users that may have multi-currency transactions, you'll have the ability to choose different currency values if you'd like. So I made the other one set to euro, but you can make it British pounds, but we're gonna move it back to US dollar because that's what represents all of the transactions in our spreadsheet. So within this data preview that's provided here in this page, this allows you to have a quick sanity check before we move on. And SavePoint here shows you what is ultimately being read from your file. You'll want to make sure you check to make sure the dates are looking right, are the amounts correct, and if so, you can then click Next. And just a quick note that the income and expense signs that we identified previously will be applied at the final step. So let's click Next, and now we move on to step 6, category mapping. This is where the fun begins. SavePoint will show you every unique category from your spreadsheet, examples such as Lucky Ramen, Green's Grocery, and ultimately, depending on how you have these formatted, you may see some generic ones such as taxi, telephone, gasoline, video games. These will ultimately normally align with the bank-issued category, but again, it depends on what information is in your spreadsheet. And SavePoint gives you the opportunity to map these categories to the budget categories that you have saved in SavePoint. So that's what you're doing here. And SavePoint will attempt to map these categories via suggestions for you. And you can see here on the right-hand side, there's suggested, and status. So some are an exact match, and they've already been assigned. And we can auto map as well. That will handle anything that's left, and there may be a few that require a few manual interventions. And also, one important note, if you have a category in your spreadsheet like transfer or payment, and these will come up, for example, when you need to pay your credit card, for example, you'll see a transfer or a payment line entry. For those, you'll want to manually assign that category here as well. We do have a category for transfer, and we do have a category for payment. And again, you'll want to make sure that you manually assign those categories, because ultimately you don't want to include payments or transfers in your reporting here. This ultimately will avoid double counting. By doing so, identifying a transaction as a payment or a transfer, it will not be included in your income and expense calculations. Those you'd rather import in the balance sheet part of the program. So let's just quickly give this one last look, and we're going to assign anything that hasn't been manually assigned to a category to some categories. There's one or two that have not, no matches found. Here is salary, and this empty category, it's sort of irrelevant for us. We're just going to put it as payment, and we can deal with it later. So moving on, we have a quick duplicate check. Because this is our first import, there are no duplicates to worry about. Now, this isn't foolproof, but SavePoint does attempt to look for duplicate transactions that you may have already imported previously. This could happen if you've uploaded a spreadsheet in the past, or you have very similar transactions. This will show you any potential duplicates and allow you to manually identify them and skip them, which is usually what you'll want to do. So let's click Next, and here we're almost home. Next up is the vendor level mapping feature. This is an optional advanced step. We're going to check this on right now so you can see. This allows you to get a little bit more granular and specific. For example, maybe you mapped all Lucky Ramen restaurants purchases to restaurant. But here you could specify that one specific Lucky Ramen purchase was for recreation or for travel as opposed to restaurants. You could usually just skip this step, but this does give you some more advanced and granular control. And this will supersede your category mapping from earlier. And I will add that the mapping features within the import are set up so that SavePoint learns from you. The next time you import, if your spreadsheet contains Lucky Ramen, it will automatically suggest and categorize it for you. So this first import, again, will take a little bit of time because we just have so much, and you'll need to manually review multiple transactions, but future ones should be much faster. So we call this feature merchant mapping, and you can add targeted words in settings and also tell SavePoint what to prioritize in its search. So again, you can update the settings for merchant mapping, identifying patterns or historical, determining what takes precedence in the settings itself. So we're going to close vendor level mapping for now. And with that, we're going to click Next, and we will be at the last step. Here we see a final summary. If everything looks good, you can click Import Transactions. A progress bar will appear. And when it's done, you'll see a success message. We are going to allow this to proceed. It is going relatively quick, but we'll meet you on the end in just a few moments. Okay, we're back and we're done. So as you can see here, we have over 9,000 transactions that were imported. We can now close this out. And that's really all there is to it. Once you have all of your transactions added, you can now filter, search, and sort through your transactions. You can edit individual transactions or use a mass edit tool, or you can manually add transactions. The choice is ultimately yours. Very quickly, we'll show you this right here. So we have our main filters array where you can look at the different period of time and you can sort this yourself. So we can look at last week, month, last 3 months or 6 months. We can filter by accounts, by currency, different categories, and more. Down below here, we do have an edit mode, which you're able to use. This will open up a spreadsheet-like screen that you could use to edit individual transactions or bulk transactions as well. Very quickly, we're going to enable pagination. Typically, this is something that we do recommend when you have a lot of transactions in the system. Even the best of computers will slow down if you have thousands upon thousands of transactions. So having this enabled, and it is enabled by default, will limit any type of performance impact to your computer. So right now we have it set to 100 per page. This is typically what we recommend. So if I click on edit mode, as you can see, we have this sort of nice spreadsheet inspired view that you can edit things. So overall, transactions again are at the heart of SavePoint. The goal is to make your life easier. So we do recommend using bank or credit card CSVs when you import each month. And remember, transactions are mainly for your money in and your money out, while your balance sheet shows all of your accounts, their account balances, and is ultimately used to calculate your net worth. So with that said, let's move on to our last major import overview and show you how to import balance sheet data. So we're going to click on the balance sheet tab right here and navigate to the balance sheet page. So as we can see here, we have our total assets, total liabilities, and net worth. This is our balance sheet that's populated with all of the accounts that we imported earlier. So again, what is this for? Balance sheet data is ultimately for your history. If you've been tracking your net worth in a spreadsheet, you can use this to import all of your past account balances. This lets you see your historical net worth chart in SavePoint from day one and allows you to complete your financial picture overall and really allows you to see a distribution of your total assets and liabilities and helps you capture an accurate picture of your financial position. So for the final time today, let's click on the Import Balances button, and that's again in the top right here. So here we also have a template for you to use right down below, or you have the option to import each bank's details separately. Although again, you do need to be mindful how to account for negative numbers. So this import requires only 3 fields, simply account name, the date of the balance, and the amount of the balance. We mapped this on the next page like before, so let's do that quickly and move on. We have A, B, C, not really all that imaginative, only because this is again our sort of test spreadsheet that we have put together. And so now we're going to map the fields. So just like before, at this step you'll map your accounts to the categories that you have in SavePoint. This is the key, and it's important to get it right for accurate reporting. Here you have the option to choose to map to an account column which already exists, or you can create a brand new account right from the importer altogether. So let's do this first. Everything should populate just like we have in our spreadsheet. So we have the different accounts that we have mentioned. And then in the actions page, once you click this drop down here, it shows select import preferences. Under there, we have map to column and create new account. So you do have these two options, again, to choose to map to an account column, which already exists, or you can create a brand new account right from the importer altogether. If you do create a new account, you'll need to identify the account type, the asset class, and the currency. So we'll show that right here, create new account. And then we have the ability to, again, create the title, and then we can change the type, the category of liquid assets, and then the currency as well. Or we can just map it to an existing column, which essentially means an existing account that we have. And so we can do this as well. Going back to creating a new account, I just want to highlight here that if you selected a liability account, for example, so say something like a loan, right here, so you should see we have loan, and this is just as an example. If you add or select a liability account, you'll be presented with the option to indicate how your file has debt or negative balances written on the next step If you only have asset accounts, this is not going to make a difference. You're going to totally miss this field. But if you do select a liability account, you will be given the opportunity, again, to present how to indicate how your file organizes debt or negative balances. So for example, does it have a negative or a positive number, or is it a negative with a minus sign? So we'll show you this in a second, but first we're going to just go through and we're going to just map some of these to the existing accounts, and we are going to meet you on the other side of this. Okay, and we are back. So we've completely mapped all of our accounts that we're looking to import here. So we're going to click on continue. And again, we did have a liability account that we had indicated. So we are going to determine how liabilities are captured in our file. So for us, we have our liabilities listed as positive values. So we're just going to click on this one and then click on next. And here we have one final preview. We are personally satisfied with this, and we can scroll through, and we're going to click import balances. So this will progress relatively quickly. Once this is totally finished, you'll have the ability to go to your balance sheet or your dashboard, and you'll be able to see your net worth chart populated with all the historical data that you just imported. So let's click on close and see what we've got. Okay, so the balance sheet page is quite versatile. At the high level, you have the ability to review the balance at any given point in time in all of your accounts. You can select the index day to determine what day of the month SavePoint uses for your account balance, so that's up here in the top right. Currently it's set to the 1st, but you can change it to any day of the month that you like, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. And you can also select different time period views as well at the top of the page. So currently we're set to the current month, but you can make it a 3-month view, a 6-month view, 12-month, current year, last year, or again, a custom year if you'd like. And notice that the index day is set to 4. So down here, the net worth trend, which is a nice little chart, is also set to the 4th as well. So June 4th, July 4th, August 4th, that represents your daily balance on the 4th of that month. So let's set this to last year just to give you an example, showing us a 12-month view. And we can drop this to the 3rd, to the 2nd, to the 1st. We don't have that much variable data, so it may not change on the few index days that we had selected. But as you upload more and more data, this could be a very useful tool for you to see how your net worth changes and your total assets and liabilities change across the month. So for some more granular information and have some fine control, you can click the edit button next to any account balance for manual control. These buttons do exist here on the 12-month view. Let's just bring it back to current to make it a little bit easier to play with. So again, you can click this edit button anytime for more granular control. So we're going to open this up here. So we're going to click on March 1st here. And so now we can edit the balance in March 1st to anything that we'd like. So let's just for kicks make it $150. And then we can click Save Balance, and you'll see that the balance on March 1st has automatically updated to $150. If we want to change it to something else, $1,500, we can do that as well. This provides you with a lot of fine control that you can use, and if you really wanted to get into the weeds, you can also click the View All button, and this allows you to see all of the transactions, each individual transaction that you have for that individual account balance at any given point in time. So this allows for some bulk viewing and also bulk handling of your account balances on a daily basis. Within this screen, you have the ability to select all. You can delete individual accounts one by one, or individual balances one by one, or you can delete multiple at a given time by selecting multiple. You can also invert the sign in case you had any issues of importing or you realized that your accounts were imported wrong. So if you had negatives instead of positives, for example, for those loan accounts, you can flip those signs if you need to. This is a very powerful location that allows you to really have fine control over your daily balances. So we're going to close this out here. And we're going to go back to the main balance sheet. One last quick point, the balance sheet itself is automatically collapsible. So you have the ability just to click this button here, and it does collapse the assets, it collapses the liabilities. You can see we have our net worth down here as well and a couple of charts. If you open these up, you can also collapse the subcategories as well, so liquid assets, household assets. So you can view really whatever you'd like to see, whatever's interesting for you. And also, one other note, so let's go back to 12 months really quick. Depending on how much each account has as a daily balance, some larger balances may not display perfectly on your screen. So if you do need some more room in your display, you do have the ability to hide part of the navigation bar on the left-hand side by clicking this button right up here on the top left of the bar. So it will give you a little bit more room to see 12 months at a glance. So overall, the balance sheet provides you with many tools to complete your financial picture. Keeping this up to date is essential to determine your overall position, so you know exactly how much you own, how much you owe, and your overall net worth. And one last quick topic here. So we're going to open this back up. And so now we're going to go to settings, and I just want to show you very quickly, we're going to go to data management. If you're coming from another computer and you would like to import an instance of SavePoint, you can click on Backup and Restore, so you can create a backup of your database file directly from here by creating a backup. And if you go to your second computer and you want to restore from that backup, which contains all of your SavePoint data, you would then click on Restore Backup. So that's a very quick and easy way to export and import all of your data from SavePoint. And just to highlight, if you go to Preferences and you scroll all the way down, you do have the ability to enable local backups as well. So these local backups will automatically save depending on the frequency that you have them set to within the program. So let's go back to balance sheet as we wrap up. With this, we'd like to just leave you with a few small tips as we wrap up. With this knowledge, you should now be able to use all 4 of SavePoint's import features and have a good idea on how to import your data into the program. We leave you with just a few parting tips. First, we recommend that you import in order. The first 2 essential uploads should be your accounts and your budgets. Once these are set, you generally can move on to transactions and daily balance uploads. These will be uploaded most regularly thereafter. Next, we recommend using the template whenever you can to avoid errors. In some cases, though, such as transactions and balance sheet, it may make sense to use the bank's own spreadsheet individually. SavePoint is robust enough to handle this, as different banks tend to handle data differently. On that point, do be mindful of how you handle negatives in your data. Is a negative expense transaction truly an expense, or was it a return, so representing money back into your account as opposed to money out? So again, that's sort of what we mean by how each bank handles these situations differently. So it is important to be mindful and consistent when uploading your data. And also, we just recommend take it slow at first, start small. Before you import 1,000 transactions, maybe consider trying to import 10 at a time to make sure both that you have the steps down and that everything is importing as you intend it to. And lastly, we do recommend for consistency to consider forming a habit. Consider uploading your transactions and daily balances at least once a month, perhaps at the end of the month or start of the next month, just to build that habit and that consistency as you review your financial position. And with this, you now have much of the foundation to begin using SavePoint. Now, with this ability to add your transactions and balances, you have the ability to access more informative reports and other features within SavePoint to help you hit that checkpoint and take control of your finances. So thank you so much for watching this comprehensive guide. For any additional questions, we do recommend reviewing our help guide within the program itself, on our website, and through our support channels. Thank you so much again for watching.